Now we just continue right along on going over our pretest here. So we have a triangle, and I start drawing the picture of it. Measure of angle A is 60, so I put it down here. The measure of angle B is 80. So what is the missing angle has to be? It has to, oh, they even tell you it's 40. And the longest side will be across from the biggest angle, so therefore AC is the longest side. So when I look at choice 2, AC is greater, well, it's greater than anything in this problem, so it has to be choice 2. Next up, given ABD with BC as the perpendicular bisector, that means I have right angles down here either side of C. So they're going to be congruent. And since it bisects it, AC and DC are going to be congruent. And I look and I see, well, I've also got a reflexive here. So that means the two triangles are going to be congruent by side angle side. So choice 4 can always be proven. What can't be proven, AC is going to be congruent to DC. We know that because of the bisector part. Angle ACB is going to be congruent to DCB. Choice 3, that's true because of the perpendicular part, right? All right angles are congruent. But BC will not be congruent to CD. BC has absolutely nothing to do with CD. So that's the thing that cannot always be congruent. Those sides do not correspond. All right, next up, this is the measure of an exterior angle. And so it's equal to the sum of the two remote interiors. So the x plus 40 plus the 3x plus 10 has to equal 6x. X and 3x make 4x. 40 and 10 make 50. Subtract 4x from both sides. 50 is 2x. Divide by 2. X is 25. And it wants the measure of CAB. That's x plus 40. So that would be 25 and 40 makes 65. Choice 4. You know, as I'm sitting here looking at these questions, I'm realizing that if I'm a kid taking the test, a student taking the test, I'm saying to myself, man, you know, it's a lot of work to get prepped. And yeah, it is. I want to walk into a test knowing that I'm going to produce a great grade on that test. It's not, you don't want to go in half prepared. So I have a job to prepare you thoroughly, which is what I'm trying to do. And you have a job to prepare yourself thoroughly. And what I can promise you is that if you do all of these pretest questions and you're able to understand how to do each question, then you'll be able to understand every question on your test. And if there's any question on here that you look at and you're like, man, I don't know how to do this, then you're not going to know how to do it on the test either. So make sure, super sure, that you understand each of these questions. If for some reason that you do not, then make sure you reach out to me so I can help you prepare for that particular question. We don't want you to get a question wrong because of a lack of preparation, okay? Now we're up to the one that says, what's the difference between the sum of the measures of the interior angles of a regular pentagon and the exterior? So for the interior, over here, it's always 180 times n minus 2, and since a pentagon has 5 sides, 5 minus 2 is 3, 180 times 3 is 540. The exterior, it doesn't matter how many sides, it's always 360. One more time, let me mention that. The sum of the exterior angles of any polygon on the face of the earth, I don't care if it has 4,000 sides, is 360. 540, the interior, says the difference, minus 360, because difference means to subtract. 540 minus 360 is 180. Next, angles are in the ratio of 2 to 3 to 5. Which type of triangle is triangle PQR? So when I was making up your test, I was looking at one of these questions that had the ratio and the angles of the triangle, and I'm going, been a little while since we did one of those. Should I include this? Should I not include this? Well, if I'm going to include this, I darn well better make sure that I put a practice question on the test. So you're going to have to see when you take the test if I included it or not. All right, so remember, they share something in common when they're in the ratio, so I'm going to call that common thing x. So 2x and 3x and 5x add up to 180. That's 10x is 180. Dividing by 10, I get x is 18. So the 2x angle is 36, the 3x angle is 54, and the 5x angle is 90. Ding, 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 90 degrees, right angle. Given 3 distinct quadrilaterals, a square, a rectangle, and a rhombus, which quadrilaterals must have perpendicular diagonals? Rhombus only. Well, it is a true statement that a rhombus has perpendicular diagonals. And remember, I had asked you at one point to take a screenshot or a picture of the properties of parallelograms. So if you made that folder on your phone and you take that folder out, you can look at a question like this and you can say, which one does it all match up with? The rectangle and the square, well, the rectangle doesn't have perpendicular diagonals, so that's not true. The rhombus and the square, well, that is true because a square is a special rhombus. So choice 1 can no longer be the answer because choice 3 is true. And we said the rectangle doesn't have it. So choice 3 is the correct answer, that both the rhombus and the square have perpendicular diagonals. All right, next up, triangle ABC, angle C is obtuse. Which statement is true? Since C is obtuse, it has to be the longest side in the triangle. It's greater than 90, and there's only 180 degrees left to go. So the longest side will be directly across from C. It will be AB. Okay. For a second there, you see sloppy reading. For a second, I almost chose choice 4, but then I noticed it said shortest side. So when I realized that, I crossed it out. But choice 2 is the correct answer. Next one up, angle 1 and angle 2. Well, those are alternate interior angles, or you could look at them as both obtuse. So 7x will have to equal 5x plus 30. Subtracting 5x from both sides, 2x is 30, dividing by 2, x is 15. And they only x for the value of x, so we're good. Remember, they're only parallel if the alternate interior angles are congruent. Next one up, the measure of that exterior angle is the sum of the two remote interior angles. So LKN is the exterior angle. It will equal the sum of 70 and 50. It's 120. Nice, easy one there. I remember also looking at one of those when I was making your test, saying, is that a little too easy? I don't know. That might be too easy for them. We'll see. You'll have to wait until you take the test to know if I thought I should include such an easy question on the test for you. All right. In the diagram below, parallelogram ABCD diagonals intersect at point E. Which expression is not, I underlined it, always true? AC is not necessarily congruent to DB, only if it's a rectangle or a square, but not in general for parallelograms. You can even look at that and see DB is the shorter diagonal, AC is the longer one. Okay, next up, triangle DEF. I drew the picture of it there, and add up all the angles, get 180. 7x, 9x, and then the numbers cancel out to 0. So 9x is 180, dividing by 9, x is 20. And then I plug in the 20, and I get that measure of angle D is 65, the measure of angle E is 65, and the measure of angle F is 50. And since E and D are both 65, it's isosceles, so the sides opposite them have to be congruent. Those are the legs. So that's EF and DF, which is choice 1. What's that a picture of in the next one? Well, that's a 180-degree rotation. If point reflection was a choice, you could have said point reflection, but it's not a choice. You know, they put down glide reflection, and a glide reflection is basically a flip and a slide, which is a reflection and a translation. But we didn't discuss glide reflections. If you happen to see a choice with glide reflection, I would never put on a test the answer being something that we have never covered. So if you see a term in the choices and you're like, I don't know what this term is talking about, just don't choose it, all right? And hopefully you can look at that and recognize that that's a rotation. All right, next one. Which quadrilateral has diagonals that bisect its angles and also bisect each other? Well, the parallelogram bisects each other, the diagonals do, but bisect the angles, that's only true in a rhombus or a special rhombus, which is a square, but that's not a choice. So rhombus is the correct answer. Next, what is the image of the point 2, -3 after a transformation in the y-axis? Remember, transformation of a reflection in the y-axis. Remember, when we reflect over the x or the y-axis, whichever axis we're reflecting over, that part of the coordinate stays the same. So the y stays the same, the x gets negated, so it's -2, -3. Next up, diagram below, lines L and M, blah, blah, blah. We see the commercial. What am I talking about? We see the diagram set up. So we have alternate interior angles here. So here's the 30 up here. Down here also has to be 30. We have vertical angles here, so that's 80. 30 and 80 add up to 110. The missing angle has to be 70. That's choice 3. Okay. 2 more questions left to go on your pretest here. Looking at this one again, this is your classic type of proof question that's multiple choice. So this is the kind of question that you can expect to see that involves proofs. AC bisects angle BAD, that's the angle down at the bottom here. So each of these pieces is congruent. Angle B is congruent to angle D, so I marked those. And you have a reflexive here with AC congruent to AC. So again, the side is not between the two angles, therefore its AAS is congruent to AAS. I don't want you to think that the only thing I ever put down is AAS. It just so happens that these reference questions all worked out to AAS. You could be SAS, it could be ASA, it could be SSS, it could be any of those combinations. Okay, ASA is on the board, all of the above. The one that'll never be, it'll never be AAA. That has to do with similar triangles, and we haven't even covered that yet. It has nothing to do with congruent triangles. Okay, what's the measure of each interior angle of a regular hexagon? As we said before, interior angles of a polygon, 180 times n minus 2. So I plug in a hexagon as 6 sides. 6 minus 2 is 4. 180 times 4 is 720. But it wants each interior angle. So there's 6 angles. If there's 6 sides, there's 6 angles. 720 divided by 6 is 120. And that is the correct answer. Folks, performance is a function of preparation. Make sure that you prepare thoroughly for this test. If you can do every single question on both of these videos, which is the pretest, you are ready for the test. You're going to be able to do anything on that test. Now, if you're like me, you always make a sloppy or a stupid mistake. You might get down to a 95 or a 90, possibly. If you're perfect on what you do, then you'll get down to, you'll stay at the 100. But for every question that you don't know how to do on this sheet, you can pretty much plan on losing 5 points on your test. Okay. Now, what I would suggest you do in terms of preparation is you do your pretest right away, as soon as you can during that week. And then the next thing you do is you check out the answers when I put them available on Wednesday, and ahead of time you schedule some time to work with some friends about going over the pretest. And then when you're all done with that, then you sit down and you take the test when the window's open. Okay? Good luck. Performance is a function of preparation. Let's make it happen.